All
You
right.
got a little story for us?
Yeah, well, let's start off. I just had 4 cookies and a few glasses of whiskey, so I'm feeling pretty good and a little happy. My soul is fed and my liver is working.
Your aura is beautiful.
Thank you. It's not too late to start our union, by the way.
I'll never forget it.
So, obviously, I would have loved to have done this with like a written script, but the last few days I've been down a pretty big YouTube rabbit hole. It started out with, in the news, like recent news, hearing about like the M23 rebel group backed by Rwanda going into the DRC, and that led me into the Belgian colonization of Africa. So their like colony territories, whatever you call it, were what is now known today as the DRC, Rwanda, Burundi, and then Equatoria, I think, is the 4th one.
Okay.
But don't quote me on the 4th one. But anyway, so I went down a little bit of a rabbit hole, which led me to start with Leopold II. So King Leopold II of Belgium. He had this quest, essentially, to have a colony and expand colonialism with Belgium. And he settled in somewhere in Africa, and he found what is now known today as the DRC. So from 1885 to 1908 was known as the Congo Free State. It was not backed really by the country of Belgium. So he actually made a purchase himself. So it was his own territory, his own personal territory, because Belgium, something that's important to note is they were a constitutional monarch. So they still had a democratic government, but still had the monarch in place. He wanted to expand. His government didn't. So he just did so individually and paid for people to explore. And he founded the Congo Free State. So from like I said, 1885 to 1908 is when he had it, committed absolute atrocities. It's estimated that during the time that he held that area, he cut the population by 50%.
Jeez.
Yeah. So now, those are the percentage. The numbers is what really blew my mind. They did like I forgot how they figured it out, but whenever he founded the Congo Free State, it was like 10 million people. So it was supposed to grow to an X amount of people, and he essentially killed and prevented the growth of another 10 million people.
That's crazy.
So it was on a genocidal level, but it wasn't considered a genocide because there was no like genocide influence behind what he was doing. Anyway, 1908, the Congo Free State is handed over to the Belgian government and is an official colony. And from 1908 to 1960 is that Belgian colonization. What I really want to hammer down on, and sort of what I discovered, is in the 1950s, it was the Belgian systematic kidnapping of mixed-race children. So what the Belgian government would do is they would take these kids from their family of mixed race. It was oftentimes a Belgian father and a Congolese mother, and they saw the mixed race as a threat to like the system that they had built. So these kids are 2 years old, 3 years old, 5 years, they're very, very young. And it happened throughout the 1950s. And they would take these kids, literally, they would just show up to the home, forcibly remove the kids from the homes, from the parents, and bring them to Belgium Catholic re-education schools, where they were cared for by nuns. Now, 1960 rolls around, there's a bit of an uprising. The Congo wants its independence from Belgium. It ends up happening, but the nuns that were the caregivers of these kids end up just leaving, and the kids are left alone. So you had these, 5-year-old kids, some of them are, 10-year-old, they're not old at all. And they end up, some of them die from starvation.
Oh, man.
Some of them are able to survive, and the ones that survive are put under the quote-unquote the protection of these militant groups that have been forming in the Congo. And these militias are just committing massive like sexual atrocities and rapes of these children. So they said that they were going to come in and take care of these kids, and they didn't. Now, fast forward to present day, in 2021, 2019, about that time frame, the women, so now they're women, they speak up against these mass atrocities, essentially try to sue the Belgian government. And just in December of 2024, they won in court, and Belgium is paying reparations to these women for crimes against humanity.
Good.
So I thought that was pretty crazy. That was my YouTube deep dive for the last few days.
Yeah, and we've seen the time it takes to get certain reparations from the Unit 684, where it was years after the process. Finally, people go through and they get governments to admit what they've done and get that recognition.
Yeah, but what I think too is nuts is the Belgian government essentially wasn't recognizing this. Now, it was a group of 5 extremely brave women that said, you know what, enough is enough. We're going to stand up to the Belgian government. And also something, they were not given citizenship either. So, they were denied Belgian citizenship before this happened.
Icing on top.
Yeah. So they were like, enough is enough. We're going to fight for it. And about 6 years ago, they started the process. 3 months ago, they finally finished that battle, and they got the reparations.
Goodness.
Yeah. Now I don't know how much. I haven't been able to find how much money in reparations, or like I don't know if it's just a monetary reparation or if there's other things that are involved with it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think it's nuts.
Yeah, I'm kind of surprised there wasn't a string of lawsuits like after that for other countries in Africa around that area, because I mean, like all of them were, colonized by a lot of European countries.
Yeah, but those governments are going to cover up.
Sure.
Whatever.
Absolutely. But like during that time especially, there's a lot going on during the 50s in Africa. Like, you know, we saw like the, was it the Rhodesian War? And then there was like the, a lot of people don't know about the communist influence in Africa during that time.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I mean, there's so much that went on in Africa. But, I mean, people don't know that the Cubans actually deployed like 20,000 troops into Africa to fight, was it Zimbabwe now, but against the Zimbabwean Rhodesians. And, which Rhodesian isn't a real thing anymore. But, I mean, a lot of them were like, white European folks that were born and raised in Africa. Mm-hmm. I think you guys saw it, like that movie Blood Diamonds with Leonardo DiCaprio. He's Rhodesian. Rhodesian. But I mean, the history in Africa is wild, and coming down to the Congo, it's still going on today.
Yeah, the Congo's a fucking nightmare.
It is. I mean, like, yeah, when I think of the Congo, I think of the beautiful jungle that housed the silverback gorillas.
Now all I see is those people with the AKs.
Oh yeah, now
the gorilla gets the gun.
No.
Yeah, well, you have what's now is going on is those M23 rebels, which are made up of primarily Tutsi minority, the Tutsi minority group, and they're fighting against I think the FDLR, which is primarily a Hutu group. But that whole tension was once again caused by the Belgian colonization within what is now modern day Rwanda, because early on the Belgian government wanted to maintain the monarch that the Tutsis had. So they were an ethnic minority in Belgium, or in Rwanda, and they held the power.
Mm-hmm.
And then,
which they were still a minority.
Yeah, right. So they are the ethnic minority, but we're the monarchy.
Right. Okay.
Now, Belgium, just would always try to amplify these problems of the ethnic differences. So they would hand out cards, and you would have what ethnic group you're part of. So they really made sure to separate who was who in what sort of social standing.
Should have just tattooed them.
Oh, yeah.
No.
But now there's a lot that's happening these years. So let's fast forward to post-World War II. The geopolitical state takes a hard turn on a lot of things.
Yeah.
Now the Belgian government wants the ethnic majority to be in charge. So now they have the Hutus leading, leading everything. And again, amplifying the tensions between the two ethnic groups.
Yep.
Which eventually leads to the Rwandan genocide and leads to every other problem that they're facing today. So these minority groups, or these ethnic groups, had tensions, yes, but the Belgian government, through colonization, just amplified everything.
Sure. Yep.
So
the government fucks something up. That's
wow.
crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy that the government messed up.
Well, like, you also see a lot of failed UN peacekeeping missions in Africa, and Congo is also one of those countries. The famous one in Somalia with Mogadishu. And the UN has systematically failed to keep the peace in Africa. And people wonder, like, hey, why? What's going on? It's like, well, you've just sent a military entity to do what? And really, what keeps that country together, that continent together, are some of these private organizations bringing food. And that's really all they need. But it's just constant militias rising up, trying to seizing power. We're seeing it in Sudan, where you've got, it's one of the most confusing things to look at. Even if you read it a million times, it's very confusing because you don't know which side is good. But one is apparently backed by Russian Wagner forces that are running air sorties. And you have no idea which side to pick in Africa. It is
tough sometimes.
Oh, yeah.
And that's why you oftentimes have to go back 100 plus years to really find the root cause.
100 years. That is, it's wild. So, that'd be 1925, right before World War II. You had tons of European countries claiming their claim on Africa.
Yeah, well, that's why Belgium, when they gained their independence from the Dutch, they were a small country, and they wanted to, King Leopold wanted to expand that and get colonies. Specifically, Leopold II, once he came into power, he saw all these other great European powers. They had colonies in Africa, in the West Indies, in the Caribbean, and he wanted to be part of that at any cost.
Yeah.
So, you have to go back 100 plus years to really find out why any of this is the way it is today. So to pick that side of, are they, who's right and who's wrong, and it's not black and white. Unfortunately,
no, it's not.
Most of the times, people want to pick a winner. People want to pick a loser. People want to know who the good guy or the bad guy is.
Yep.
Sometimes it's just both.
Yeah. After World War II, I don't know how. I don't know if most of it's true. Most of it is very believable. But they were talking about after World War II, a lot of soldiers from the German army joining groups like the French Foreign Legion and going to places like Africa, and just going to Africa and joining some of these mercenary groups, and because there's a lot of German influence all over the world, and there's a lot of German
Argentina.
influence. Yeah. That's another story for another time too. But
another episode.
But in Africa, you see a lot of European influence, and you see a lot of German influence. And how much of it was some of these German soldiers trying to escape war crimes.
Yeah.
And so you had these bands of European mercenaries running havoc over Africa, because there's a lot of resources in Africa. Tons. There's oil and there's precious minerals.
Yep. That's what really drove with Leopold II was the rubber trade. There was a massive need for rubber, so he was just depleting the rubber supply of the Congo.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
And now we're looking at Rwanda's influence in Congo, and that one's it's sad, but we were talking about it earlier this week. They basically described Rwanda's presence in the Congo like Russia's presence in Ukraine.
Yeah, it could be seen as something similar.
Yeah. Because Rwanda's got a very modern army, and they've got a lot of They have a lot of tactical superiority in that area.
Yeah. Well, what's funny is Rwanda keeps denying the fact that they're backing.
Well, yeah.
M23, but the U.S., the UN is like, no, you guys are.
Right, but backing officially or backing through guerrilla warfare?
I think it's like backdoor financial means.
Right.
And,
so you have a lot of like deniability with that.
Yes,
it's because we're not doing like the same thing Russia with Wagner being like, we're not doing this. This other guy.
And
who's also Russian is doing
this. And as a reminder, like their equivalents to the Russian-Ukraine campaign right now, it's earlier. So they're basically talking about like the Russian separatists moving in on Crimea. Mm-hmm. So like they're talking about earlier in the war. So it's not actual or proven Rwandan military official groups moving into the Congo, but like you said, guerrillas or gangs.
Yeah.
But yeah. I don't know. I don't have proof. I haven't been there.
So. Leopold II was actually never there either.
No, well, yeah, they never are.
Usually.
I mean, when does the king come out and say, "Yeah, I want to go to the Congo"?
Well, he was somebody who was very well traveled.
Not to the Congo, probably other places.
Well, Europe. He traveled over Northern Europe. In the countries in the Mediterranean.
Wow. Well, but like
traveled to what's modern day Syria, Iraq. He traveled to all those countries. He was a well traveled guy, but
not to the shitty area.
Just not to the place.
Go
that
to Syria
wanted
now.
To kill 10 million people.
No. No. Well, like wait, Leopold was in from 18.
Leopold II, the guy that I'm referring to the most is he owned what was known as the Congo Free State from 1885 to 1908.
Okay.
He, I think, died, I always forget, in 1907 or 1909.
So he would be essentially traveling all the way down to the Congo from Belgium in a steamboat.
So I'm pretty sure he actually set up a steamboat company.
Okay.
And railroads.
Oh.
But all for, trading minerals and
Belgium's
rubber.
a wild country to talk about, too. I mean, because they were in like the Caribbean and South America for a bit, but like, yeah, I mean, little tiny country, like put in borders in Africa larger than their own country.
Yeah, it was. I think they say the Congo Free State was 96 times the size of their country.
Sure. Oh my god. So like, my question, I don't know if you found it, but like the goal of re-educating these mixed children was what exactly?
So they. Like I said earlier, they saw it as a threat because they were afraid, because of their mixed race, that their loyalties might side with the Congolese side. They wanted to ensure that their loyalties sided with the Belgian white side.
But staying in the Congo, not coming to Belgium.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. All right.
As soon as there was an uprising, they just said, forget these kids.
Yeah.
All right.
Just be loyal to us, but we don't want you.
Yeah.
It sucks. Dad, I want to come home. I'm tired of living with Mom.
No.
Like, yeah, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry, not going to do it.
Yeah, but it was, I watched some interviews of these women that are, well into adulthood now, that were children in the 1950s, and it was pretty wild. They were just, like, the way they were describing their experience was pretty nuts.
That's wild. It's really sad.
Yeah, because they said they have no maternal or like paternal feeling. They said they have no idea what it's like to love a mother or father.
Yeah, it's called RAD. I just only know that portion, but it's basically it's what you described. So a lot of it happened. You get the diagnosis as an orphan, and it's a separation from parents, not knowing your actual parents, and not knowing what it's like to be loved by your parents because you're just in between institutions.
Parents.
Well, not parents, but like institutions. So either another orphanage or school, or another orphanage, and it's actually really sad. I mean, we can go into it later, but I was watching a documentary on it.
Yeah, it does sound familiar.
Yeah.
I forget what it stands for though.
Yeah, hang on, I can look it up.
Yeah, we'll hit friggin'.
But at the end of the day, it was because they wanted to make sure that their loyalties were on the right side. It wasn't long ago. That was 1950s. Ended in 1960.
Yeah, for like Gen Z, that's a long time ago.
Yeah. For people born after 9/11, that's a while.
That's forever.
Yeah, that's right. Do you even remember?
Yeah. Where were you on 9/11? Nowhere? That's
reactive
crazy.
With the Romans.
disorder. That's what
What is it?
Reactive attachment disorder, a condition that can affect children who have been in orphanage or foster care. So neglect or abuse, I'm not going to say it. Separation from parents, difficulty forming emotional bonds with caregivers.
Okay.
Does that go up to a certain age?
So it
is there a cutoff?
So it does start with younger children. So most of the time it's like women who know they can't take care of their children, so they just send them straight to the orphanage after birth, and they're raised in an orphanage or in a foster care system.
Yeah, but if they're out, let's say if they're lucky and they're out by 2, are they still affected by that?
Yes. Yeah, they are. Because I mean, it's kind of crazy what a baby remembers. I mean, because do you remember anything?
Well, they're finding that out now. Like, I don't remember anything, but like, it's not even. It's crazy too. It's not even about what you remember. So your DNA will change based off of your own experiences. So your reproductive system will adapt to experiences that you have had, where if someone undergoes a stressful situation, that will change the amino acids in their DNA.
Oh, wow.
So their kids will have whatever kind of stress response that their parents had. So when they talk about breaking the cycle or generational trauma or abuse or whatever, part of it is, the nurture environmental portion. Mm-hmm. But they're finding out there's a large portion of it that is nature, where even if you get out of that situation, it is literally in your DNA, that fact. So when they find where people my grandfather was an alcoholic, my dad was an alcoholic, even if you didn't drink alcohol before, you are genetically predisposed to be at a higher risk of being an alcoholic than someone that's not, and vice versa. Can it happen, rarely? Sure.
Yeah.
But even stuff abuse-wise, people that, if their grandfather was abusive to their kids, so now their parents are abusive to them, even if they get out of that and are able to find someone else and get away from that environment, they are more genetically predisposed to be abusive based off of not the situation that they were in, it plays a part of it, but off of the genetic DNA that is passed down to them.
Wow. Is that why children who experience sexual trauma often commit sexual crimes?
Yep. Yeah, so it's a mix, and it's going to vary between people, right? There's going to be a lot where it is environmental, where that's your normal, but they're finding that your DNA can actually change.
Interesting.
And it changes as you go on. So let's say you have a kid, right? And then something happens to you, traumatically, whatever, and then you have another kid. Their DNA is going to be slightly different because the second kid you have is going to have the effect of that event, unlike the first kid that event never happened.
Huh.
Yeah.
That's kind of crazy.
It's pretty fucking wild.
I've got questions for my parents now.
Yeah. So I mean, it is crazy because you see stuff like that where the whole paternal oh, you don't know what it's like to be loved, they don't nurture wise.
Yeah.
But whatever their parents were doing outside of that is literally in their DNA. So that's why you get these people sometimes and they have a shit upbringing, but they're good. Basically, right? Not that they are good, but they're handling it a lot better than someone else because you see people where, oh, their upbringing's great, their family has money, whatever, and they're a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Well, their parents are a piece of shit. I almost guarantee you that, unless they have some kind of mental disorder or something. If the person's a piece of shit, their parents are probably a piece of shit because they're getting nature, nurture, situational stuff, and genetic stuff to make that happen.
Yeah.
It doesn't just happen because some random shit.
See, that when you look at countries now, too, you look at more progressive countries like ours, European countries, some Southeast Asian countries, where people are changing progressively over time. And then you look at some of these countries that are still maybe third world countries and maybe a little bit above that,
Mm-hmm.
where they have traditional values or they have their traditional upbringing. So they only know what they've been taught. And I mean, I talk to my wife all the time about our kids, and like, I couldn't be more grateful to be in the time that we are in right now to raise children, because we have so many comforts and so many easier ways to raise children and to make sure they're okay and like safe and healthy.
Mm-hmm.
Goodness gracious, like that's one of the biggest things now, especially now, like, you know, autism is more prevalent now. Like,
Is it?
it is.
So, okay.
Yeah.
It is absolutely
This is what I hate with statistics. Before I forget, what I was talking about is called epigenetic. And that is the stress and trauma passed down genetically with changes basically just affecting your DNA. There's a few different ways you can look it up. But yeah, if you just look up epigenetic, that will be what I was talking about. I know it kind of sounds like some weird fucking conspiracy theory. But the thing, like what you're saying with autism, the reason that I hate statistics is you can bend it any way you want.
Absolutely.
So, is there stuff happening now externally to people that is making more people autistic? Or, probably the more likely scenario, if I had to guess, it is more common and more tested for and more allowed in society for people to be autistic.
Sure.
So if someone just gets diagnosed as being autistic, it's not a big deal. When my parents were young, I don't think they tested people to see if they were autistic. They probably just gave them a fucking lobotomy and called it a day. Now, you know, you talk to, you know, your uncle.
Lobotomize that child.
Yeah. You know, you talk to your uncle.
He's too much of a free, or she's too much of a free thinker.
Right. You know, like you talk to, you know, your uncle or whatever, and like everything's fine as long as, you know, like the number on the fucking microwave ends in like a number divisible by 3.
Yeah.
They're probably fucking autistic. But back then they were just like, they're weird.
Yep.
So are more people autistic now than before? Or are we just more
aware,
predisposed and aware to being like, oh, this person's on the spectrum?
I think it's a little bit of both.
Absolutely, yeah. Because,
Right?
I mean, like, over time, like, we've had a lot of medical advantages in our life. Like, you know, like, we've got a lot of, I mean, I'm not saying it's vaccinations that are making people autistic, but we have a lot of things that are keeping people healthier and increasing longevity.
Yes.
But we are paying attention to a lot of things where certain groups are saying that, you know, it's vaccinations' faults. But, like, we don't know that. That's one thing. Like, I love science because science can be proven. Theories are theories.
Yes.
Science is science.
Yeah, but you wouldn't know
But-
because you're gonna do certain vaccinations when someone's too young to determine whether they're autistic, and then they're gonna turn out autistic, and you're gonna blame it on the vaccination when if they didn't have it, they would just be autistic.
Sure, but we have the population to, you know, go through and look at the statistics and say, like, hey, this is how many people that have received the same vaccinations. This is how many people are, you know, considered autistic, and, you know, others that are not. But, like, back in the day, like, you know, my dad talked about it for a while. He was like, you know, for a while, because my oldest son is autistic. And my dad was talking about autism back in the day, and it was just like, man, yeah, they use the R word.
Right.
And it's just like, you know, like, hey, yeah, this kid, slow. Can't keep up. They keep normal classes. They don't have any programs to help them. And they don't help them because they won't help them. Because they had a standard to help normal people.
Right.
That's what it was. But, like, now we have plenty of programs. We have plenty of research. And we
Well,
know...
until the DOE gets fucking tanked.
Oh, man. Yeah. Well, like, you know, let's see.
Well, Texas does do a lot for your son, though,
They
right?
do a
it's, and
lot
it's
for
it's
him.
through state programs,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
It's not
It's-
federal programs.
Absolutely. Like, we have tons of speech therapy and occupational therapy.
Now-
How much of those are military?
All of them.
All of them.
Oh.
So it's felt like federal
Well,
still. Not DOE.
Are you receiving them because...
So-
are you receiving them for free or lower rate because you're military?
So we receive them for free because I am military.
But there's-
then so my oldest is in a early developmental program where he goes to a public school and receives education from the public. Oh, so he receives health benefits from the public school system.
Okay.
So it is from Texas, and it's not at the federal level. So there are some kids that are in there that, you know, parents aren't not military. They pay for, you know, all of it. And I mean, it's a great system. He gets a lot of help, and he's doing very well. But in Texas, from what I know, my sister has an autistic child as well, and they're in Virginia, and they have to pay for, like, I think it's called ABS. And I can't remember for the life of me what it stands for, but she receives the same benefits, but she gets a little bit more occupational therapy at school. It's intense now, because my youngest sister is actually an occupational therapist.
Oh wow!
And in New York, and she tips from her.
Nice.
And she's good.
Yeah, I just
high caliber.
It's always irks me with a little bit of caution.
High caliber, me. Low caliber.
22.
Yeah,
17.
I'm always kind of irked when people bring up statistics like that, because you can do, like there's always common ones where it's like, oh, you're most likely to get attacked by a shark in like knee-deep water. Okay, well, when people are at the beach, where the fuck usually are they?
He was swimming with stingrays during
the stingray migration.
You were hammerhead sharks all over the place.
Yeah, I know. I was living my best life.
They're chilling.
I
did the bull sharks in Fiji.
Oh yeah, that's right. Yeah,
they're
bald.
No issue. But like when people bring up, like, you can warp a statistic any way you want to make it fit your narrative.
Yeah.
So that's why when people bring up the autistic one, I don't necessarily buy that there are more people autistic now. I think that there probably is about the same amount, and it's just not a fucking hate crime to be autistic. Because basically back in slow, like, no one's going to hang out with them, and kids are going to, like, throw rocks at you. When now, like, there's probably a lot of people that are autistic, and, like, you don't know. Because it's just some weird thing. It's a spectrum. It's not an on-off thing.
I'm afraid to do the test. I'm scared to death.
Oh, I can almost guarantee you that I'm like I'm autistic, like, to a certain degree. Like, no joke. Like, I fucking 100%. But like,
well, you may not be autistic, but we all have ADHD.
Dude, so I'm actually at medical right now. So with the fucking behavioral health, I have to take an ADHD class. So I got to do that on like a week and a half or so. I got to go there and take a class.
I still got to call my behavioral health. I got the referral in now.
Yeah, dude, I would start sooner than later, dude. It takes fucking forever to do anything.
Well,
they are the most understaffed. Like, the ratio of practitioners in behavioral health and the number of people that they see, it is the highest ratio offset out of any place in Lackland.
Yep.
Wow.
Yeah, absolutely.
I believe that right now, she was saying that they're around a 1 to 60, so one practitioner for every 60 people.
Well, I'll make my appointment now, and then I'll get seen.
I made mine before Halloween, and I got it in the middle of February.
Oh. Okay, so I'll make my appointment now and get seen after my deployment.
Yes.
But it's fine. There's other avenues that I could.
There's other avenues
where I could speak with people, but
yeah. It's good to get that done though, because they have a lot more resources. They have the classes. But yeah, I was telling her too. I was like, my wife and I always joke, like, I'm an all or nothing bitch, dude. Because I'll get into something, dude, and once I get in, that's it. It's game over. Dude, I'll fucking spend $8,000 to get like the best shit for whatever I need to do.
I am obsession is I'm also a perfectionist.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I told her. Even like with this, like with the room, I was like, "Oh, we're just gonna use it for whatever." And then like I'm putting fucking like the fucking foam up on the wall and like got the TV in the corner and shit. Dude, never get this room back.
Yeah. Well, when me and Caleb went to our school for work, I did not do well because I was smart. I did well because I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah. Oh, it showed too. Because like I'm watching him.
Trust me, there's other people that are way smarter than I was.
Oh yeah.
That's you had the highest score in the class.
Because I'm a perfectionist.
Yeah, because you're smart too.
Because I'm
the smartest person in class.
It's weird.
I was smarter than everybody.
I'm so smart. Now you sound like an asshole.
I'm kind of like that now, I guess. But even now, doing like college, it's 4 modules. I'll do the 3 modules, and then the 4th one, I'm like, fuck it. I was like, if I get a 70, whatever. I'm not like, oh, I need to get a fucking A and every. No, dude, fucking all I need to do is pass, dude. I literally couldn't do nursing school because my GPA was like a 2.6. So I've been at the point of like getting fucking D's and shit. I don't know the amount of time that I had in high school teachers call at like 8 p.m. and be like, yeah, there's 2 weeks left in the semester, and Tyler has like a 30 in the class, right? So like, I've definitely gotten a lot better.
Damn.
With it.
Good.
But I still don't. If you pass, you pass.
Yeah.
Nobody cares. It's like all those people even too where it's like, they graduate boot camp, but they're like, I'm the honor graduate. Dude, no one fucking cares. You're a loser.
Well, okay,
no one cares.
I was an undergraduate.
You're a loser, dude. You're a loser.
I think that might be a good time to.
Yeah.
All right.
We're at 37 minutes, and Caleb's a loser.
Yeah, that's good.
No, I was an undergraduate.
Yeah.
That's proof of anything. I'm not a loser.
Get a license plate.
I have one.
Idiot.
Anyway, there it is.
Yeah.
Dude,
you're itching, dude.
Well, I want to get that other one.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
All right. We're going to do them back to back.
Here we go.
All righty. We'll see you.